Equine facilities. When we are talking about building facilities for horses, we must take into account very specific variables which can affect the horses in a positive or negative way. In order to delve deeper into the subject, we contacted Dr. Gerardo Quintero, a veterinarian from the city of Cali, who is well versed in the development of facilities for equines.
If we're talking about equine facilities, we must take into account, first of all, the alignment of the sun. We are in the tropics, so we want to play around with the orientation of the sun, depending if it's a hot or cold climate.
In Venecia, in the province of Antioquia, farm manager Edison Carvajal, who is in charge of caring for horses, summarized the multiple activities that are required for horse care and what their implications are.
When it comes time to build facilities such as these, you must take into account, first of all, the local climate, because here you have a lot of wind currents. Therefore, the facilities are aligned so as to block these air currents, which when they come downhill, they hit the outer walls and not the horses themselves.
The places designed for horses are generically known as horse stables, barns, or mangers. A stable is a good alternative for housing a large number of horses in a given area. But the stable is just one of many items in a long list of facilities that are needed to properly care for and maintain horses.
Besides the orientation of the sun, which I mentioned before, you have to have an area that is sufficiently large, depending on the size of the horse. For me, the ideal stall area for a Creole Colombian horse should be 3x4 or 4x4 meters, so as to have an area that is sufficiently wide and either ventilated or covered in the case of cold climates.
As Dr. Gerardo says, the minimum size for a horse stall should range between 3x4 meters or 4x4 meters. This will guarantee that the horse has adequate space to move within the stall. Other important factors to keep in mind when building equine facilities are illumination, ambient temperature, and ventilation.
Besides taking into account the orientation of the sun when building facilities for any type of livestock ranching, one must also take into account ventilation and illumination. Illumination is essential for an equine's comfort and reproductive well-being, as is ventilation. If you're in a hot climate, you have to have good ventilation in order to air out the ammonia present in their urine. Horses, by their nature, have the ability to adapt to sudden changes in temperature, or if they're taken from one place to another, from a hot climate to a cold or temperate climate. By nature, they have developed the ability to protect themselves against those sudden changes in temperature. By nature, they have developed the ability to protect themselves against those sudden changes in temperature. You have to help them in any way you can to cover them in cold weather or with good ventilation and good airflow in hot climates.
Every facility should be designed to protect the horse and the staff. A properly designed and built horse stable can manage to give the horse the comfort and security it needs. We should also consider in its design issues of operating efficiency, labor cost reductions, in conjunction with providing for the needs of the animals housed therein.
Another important issue in the construction of these facilities is the horse's well-being, the development of its life, or the development of the work it's supposed to do. There should be direct communication between stalls. The horses should be able to see each other and remain in constant communication. They speak in their language through gestures and their natural sounds. They understand each other. Then you should take that into account and allow them to communicate. Otherwise, they may experience difficulties when it comes to building a community.
With the goal of providing comfort, the stall should be equipped with a non-slipped, soft, and dry flooring. It should allow the horse to lay down and stand up comfortably. Ideally, you should use materials that are easy to clean and resistant to foot traffic, with minimal cost and maintenance requirements.
In terms of the flooring, if you're going to build from scratch, I prefer to make a layer in aggregate or gravel, followed by a layer of fine sand, followed by a layer of brick. And on top of that brick, you should apply the soft layer, which is made of wood shavings or similar materials. Such that if the horse urinates, the moisture can filter down, and this will guarantee that his feet will be comfortable and in good condition. When we go into the stall, the idea is not to bother the horse, rather to be as quiet as possible. You can talk to them, but to let them know that you are in their stall, not to invade their space or cause trouble, but just to clean as carefully as possible. Primarily their bedding. Every day, we clean the manure either in the morning or in the afternoon. And we change the water in the morning and in the afternoon because their saliva has an unpleasant smell. So we change it every day, since it also attracts flies. We change their bedding every 8 days. How do we do it? We take out the dry bedding, we wash it out with lime, and we put in a new layer of bedding without moving the filters, only the bedding.
It is very important to keep in mind the drainage of these facilities, since that helps control bad odors, proliferation of flies, and it promotes health of the horse as well as the staff. Now, let's talk about feeding troughs, watering troughs, and salt licks. These are of extreme importance in the stall, since they provide the horse with essential food and water.
I prefer to place feeding troughs in the stall very low to the ground or on the floor, because in nature, horses eat grass from the ground. They're herbivores. They feed off the ground, and when they do that, their digestive system will work optimally to assimilate the nutrients from the grass they're consuming. Also, by lowering their heads, their neck muscles get a necessary workout. That is, it will prevent their necks from getting weak. They will remain strong. The watering troughs or water tanks should be placed opposite to where the food is so that they won't get the water dirty. And another thing that few take into account, that small movement from where their food is to where their water is, moving just 2 or 3 meters to drink water helps them to relax and move around as well. Same with the salt licks. They should be placed the same way. We provide maintenance to the watering troughs and feeding troughs every day. We remove the manure every day before we feed them breakfast. We manage their diet, so before breakfast we clean the feeding and watering troughs so that the horse will have a nice clean place to eat his breakfast and drink his water. So we clean their space every single day. The person who is going to supply that horse with food will become their mother in a way. They have to put a lot of love into their work so that the horse will receive the food and the water that you give them. Sometimes we give them medication mixed in with their food or their water. So I emphasize that we have to put a lot of love into it because the horse's life is at stake. If you give them love, they will reward you with even more love in turn.
In some breeding farms, there is a special place for pregnant mares. These can be wider stalls or small paddocks. They should have an area large enough for mother and foal, and should allow for the foal to engage in some physical activity.
Here we are in the birthing stalls. As you can see, this stall is twice as large. That is, this is an 8 by 6 meter cage. That's more or less the dimensions you need for this mare. This is a mare that gave birth a week ago. This stall has 2 feeding troughs, 2 salt licks, and 2 watering troughs. It also has a ball for the foal to play around with. We put this ball in the middle of the stall so that he won't bother his mother while he's playing.
The areas where the grass is cut, feed is stored, and saddles are warehoused are of vital importance to any equine installation.
Here, in the grass cutting area, we have a 3-bladed grass cutting machine. It cuts their grass to just the right size, not too thin or not too thick. This makes it easier for them to chew, and they will digest it better. Where we store the feed, we stack it in bushels on pallets, and for daily ration management, we use trash cans. Here we store the saddles. We have them arranged in such a way that they won't deteriorate. We separate horse medication from bovine medication. Since we manage both types of livestock, we need to keep them separate.
We have learned about the areas of the equine facility that are key to the horse's well-being. Now, let's talk about the stocks, the bathing zone, and specialized horse pools.
We are in a stock sized for Colombian Creole horses. It is used for small-scale surgical procedures or to perform gynecological procedures such as ultrasounds, embryo implantation, acupuncture, or homotoxicology treatments. The stock should have another area nearby, which is the service area. It consists of a table or sink where you can put the veterinarian's instruments and work equipment. Everything must be completely sanitized from the moment you begin working on the animal until the procedure is finished, and then you leave everything completely clean and sanitized. An important thing to keep in mind regarding the location of the stock within an equine facility is that it should be kept completely separate. That is because the stock plays the part of vet office or small-scale clinic inside the farm. This is the pool that we have here at the Carolina de los Mellos horse farm. Its main function is therapeutic to help in the rehabilitation of joint and bone injuries. This pool is shaped like a magnifying glass. It's done that way because when animals are undergoing physical therapy, they could have a problem on the right side or the left side, and you may need to work one side or the other. That's why it's shaped like a circle. It is 3 meters deep at the deepest end. The entrance ramp is 2 meters wide by 15 meters long. The pool's diameter is such that a horse swims 30 meters on average per turn. Time should not be taken into account for these patients, since different animals swim at different speeds, and generally speaking, sick patients will swim at a lower speed. We use the heart rate monitor and the breathing monitor, which is the only way to work with these horses.
An area that is of great importance and practical benefit to animals is the bathing area. The floors in this area should be solid and slip-proof with adequate drainage and good places to tie the horses down. This procedure should be performed with varying water pressure, particularly when approaching the head. Here we use less pressure than elsewhere on the body.